Hello, students. Welcome back. Let us continue reading chapter number 4 from your supplementary reader textbook snapshots. The title of the chapter is Albert Einstein at School. So, the last thing that we read was the conversation between Yuri and Einstein, wherein Einstein came up with this idea that he would be searching for a doctor who specializes in nerves, and then he would make the doctor believe that he is suffering from a nervous breakdown, the reason of which would be, of course, his school. And then he also decided that the doctor would prescribe him to stay away from the school for a while. And to help his friend Einstein, Yuri also promised Einstein that he would try to find such a doctor for him who would help Einstein in giving such prescription of staying away from the school. So Einstein was full of hope that Yuri would be able to find such a doctor, and Yuri had never seen Einstein feeling less nervous. So Albert told Yuri not to worry about him being less nervous because a day or two at school would again restore him back to his troubled state of being too nervous. Okay, let us now continue reading from page number 28. We'll begin from reading from here. Certainly, he had lost his high spirits when Yuri saw him next. I can't stand it any longer, he said. I really shall have a nervous breakdown that'll satisfy any doctor. Keep it up, then, said Yuri. I found a doctor for you. You have? Albert's face lit up. Oh, good. When can I see him? I have an appointment for you for tomorrow evening, Yuri said. Here's the address. He handed Albert a piece of paper. Dr. Ernst Wheel. Is he a specialist in nervous troubles? Asked Albert. So, Albert was right that a day or two at the school would again make him nervous and sad. And when Yuri saw him for the next time, he actually seemed troubled. And by this time, Albert had given up and he actually was expecting a nervous breakdown if he continued going to school like that. And then this would surely make the uh, doctor work easier and believe Einstein in a more easy manner, as he would then clearly see Albert's trauma of going to school. So Yuri conveyed to Einstein that he has found the right doctor for him, and he has also fixed an appointment with the doctor for the next evening. And Yuri also gave the address of the doctor to Einstein. So Albert read the doctor's name. The name was Dr. Ernst Wheel, and he asked Yuri if he specialized in nerves. Now let's read further. Not exactly, Yuri admitted. As a matter of fact, he only qualified as a doctor last week. You may even be his first patient. You knew him as a student then. I have known Ernst for years. Yuri hesitated for a few moments. He's not a fool, he warned Albert. What do you mean? Don't try to pull the wool over his eyes, that's all. Be frank with him, but don't pretend you have got what you haven't. Not that you would deceive anyone, Yuri added. You're the world's worst liar. So Yuri told Albert that Dr. Ernst Wheel was not exactly a neurospecialist and that he had qualified as a doctor only last week. So he was a very new doctor. And Yuri also said that Albert could even be his first patient. He was so new. So Yuri also mentioned that he has known this Dr. Ernst Wheel for a while, and now and he also warned him to not to lie to the doctor because he was not a fool. He was a smart person. Yuri asked Albert to be very honest and not to pretend to have nervous breakdown, which he was actually not having as per Yuri. So Yuri further mentioned that pretending or making a fool of the doctor was also not possible for Albert, because Albert himself was the world's worst liar. And this we had also read in the lines before, in the paragraphs before, that Albert was a very plain person. He used to speak whatever used to come in his mind. Okay, let's read the next set of paragraph. Albert spent the next day wondering what to tell the doctor. When the time arrived for his appointment, he had worried over it so much that he really was quite nervous. So Albert spent the next day thinking about all he was going to say to the doctor, and he had thought so much about all this that he feared he would actually get a nervous breakdown, which was good for him in reality. Okay, further, I don't really know how to describe my trouble, Dr. Veal, he began. Don't try, said the young doctor with a friendly smile. Yuri has already given me a history of the case. Oh, what did he say? Only that you want me to think you have had a nervous breakdown and say that you must not go back to that school. Oh dear, Albert's face fell. He shouldn't have told you that. Why not? Isn't it true then? Yes, that's the trouble. Now you'll say there's nothing wrong with me and you'll tell me to go back to school. Don't be too sure of that, said the doctor. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure you are in a nervous state about that school. But I haven't told you anything about it, said Albert, wide-eyed. How can you know that? So, finally, Albert went to see this Dr. Ernstwheel and told him that he really does not have the right choice of words to describe his nervous state or his miserable situation. And the doctor was very friendly and he comforted Albert and told him that Yuri had already told about Albert's problem, and it turned out that Yuri had told Dr. Veal the entire truth, word by word, and how Albert wanted the doctor to think that he had a nervous breakdown because of his school. Now, at this point of time, Albert was a bit embarrassed and he expressed his displeasure, his thoughts with Dr. Veal, knowing the entire truth, that he just wanted the doctor to think that he was having an actual nervous breakdown. Um, just because he wanted to stay away from the school for a while. Now, Albert now felt that the doctor would not help him after knowing the truth about him. As a result, he would have to go back to school. Okay, so he was still thinking that the doctor won't be helping him after knowing the truth. Again, this friendly doctor comforted Albert by saying that his situation was well understood, that he was very clearly able to understand Albert's situation, even when Albert had not told anything about himself, about his nervous state, or about any of the experiences that he had been facing in the school. So Albert was very surprised with the doctor's reply, and then he asked him how he got to know all about Albert when he himself had not told anything about him. Further, let us read. Because you wouldn't have come to see me about this if you hadn't been pretty close to a nervous breakdown. That's why. Now, said the doctor briskly, if I certify that you have had a nervous breakdown and must stay away from school for a while, what will you do? I'll go to Italy, said Albert, to Milan, where my parents are. And what will you do there? I'll try to get into an Italian college or institute. How can you without a diploma? I'll ask my mathematics teacher to give me something about my work, and perhaps that will be enough. I have learned all the maths they teach at school, and a bit more, he added when Dr. Veal looked doubtful. So here the doctor very professionally replies that if Albert weren't really close to a nervous breakdown, he wouldn't be really seeing him. He wouldn't want to meet this Dr. Earnswell. So the doctor then inquires about Albert's plans once he gets out of the school, after he verifies that Albert has a nervous breakdown and he needs to stay away from school. So what would be his plans? So to this, Albert tells the doctor that he plans on going to live with his parents in Italy, in Milan, where he would join an Italian college. Now, the doctor is not clear with Albert's plans. He says that how would Albert get admission in a college without a school diploma? Since he was leaving his school, so he would not be having his school diploma. So how would he get admitted in a college in Italy? And to this, Albert assures the doctor that his mathematics teacher would provide him with a reference which would be good enough to get him into a college. And at last, Albert also claims to have learned all about mathematics that is taught in a school, and he has even learnt more in math. Now, after listening to this, Albert's doctor, Dr. Wheel, wasn't able to believe him. Okay, okay, let's read ahead. Well, it's up to you, he said. I doubt if it will come off. But I can see you are not doing yourself anyone or anyone else much good by staying here. How long would you like me to say you should stay away from school? Would 6 months be all right? This is very kind of you. It's nothing. I've only just stopped being a student myself, so I know how you feel. Here you are. Dr. Wheel handed him the certificate. And the best of luck. How much? Nothing. If you have anything to spare, invite Yuri to a meal. He's a good friend of mine, and yours too, I think. Albert had no money to spare, but he pretended he had and took Yuri out to supper. So the doctor here is still not convinced if the college idea of going to Italy and getting an admission in a university in Italy or a college in Italy would be a successful idea. But he is definitely convinced about the fact that Albert going to school is not doing anyone any good. Okay, he was not benefiting himself or anybody else. Thus, what he does, he confirms from Albert if a 6 month away from school period would be enough to put his plans in place or not. For which Albert is very much grateful after listening from the doctor that a 6 month break from a school would be certified to him. So he is very much grateful and thankful to the doctor. Further, Dr. Wheel tells Albert that he understands Albert's situation so well because he has himself just stopped being a medical student. So this also we had read that he had just passed out his medical exams and he had just become a doctor. So he says that he himself had just stopped being a student, so he could very well understand the situation of Albert. Now, Dr. Wheel, when refuses to take his fee, when asked by Albert, the doctor then asks that if he could do something, that would be taking Yuri for a meal. So, filled with joy and excitement, and fully happy he was, Albert, after getting that certificate from the doctor. Albert took Yuri out for supper, even though he had no money to spend. So he just pretended that he had money, but in reality, he had nothing to spare. Okay, let us read ahead now. Isn't it wonderful? He said after showing Yuri the certificate. Yes, it's fine, Yuri agreed. 6 months is a good period. This way, you won't actually be leaving the school, so if the worst comes to the worst, you'll be able to come back and carry on for your diploma. I'll never go back to that place, Albert assured him. I'm going to take this certificate to the head teacher tomorrow, and that will be the end of it. Don't forget to get a reference in writing from your mathematics teacher first, Yuri reminded him. So, on seeing the certificate, Albert is very much delighted and happy, and he also shows it to Yuri. Yuri assures Albert that 6 months off from school is a good time period for him, because just in case things go wrong and Albert is not able to execute his plans, Albert is not able to get into any of the colleges in Italy, then he could come back to this school to finish his diploma at least. So 6 months of break was a good period of time for him. Albert then reassures Yuri that this is not going to happen. He's not or never going to come back to that place he calls the school as, to that school ever in his life. And he also conveyed his idea of taking the certificate to the headmaster of the school the next day, while Yuri, he reminded him to get the reference letter first from the mathematics teacher. Further, let us read. Mr. Cooch willingly gave Albert the reference he wanted. If I say I can't teach you anymore, and probably you'll soon be able to teach me, will that be all right? He asked. That's saying too much, sir, said Albert. It's only the truth. But all right, I'll put it more seriously. It was still a glowing reference, and Mr. Cooch made the point that Albert was ready immediately to enter a college or institute for the study of high mathematics. So here we also come to know that yes, what Albert said to Dr. Wheel, that he had learnt all of mathematics and some more, this was the right or true statement given by him. Okay. So Mr. Cooch, the mathematics teacher, gave Albert a nice reference letter. He even went to the extent of saying that Albert would soon be ready to teach him, his own teacher, which Albert thought was very kind of him to say so. Okay, he was saying too much, probably out of respect for his teacher, for his student, also the love for his student. He was saying this, that Albert would be able to teach him as well, and he knew a lot about mathematics. Then Mr. Cooch wrote his reference in different words, and this reference in a way was, to make it very smooth for Albert to enter any college or to pursue education in higher mathematics. Okay, so it was a very influential reference letter. um, Further, let us read. I'm sorry you are leaving us, although you are wasting your time in my class, he said. It's almost the only class where I'm not wasting my time, said Albert. But how did you know I'm leaving, sir? You wouldn't have asked me for this reference otherwise. I thought you'd wonder. There's nothing to wonder about, Einstein. I knew you were going to leave before you knew yourself. Albert was puzzled. What did the teacher mean? He soon found out. Before he had a chance to ask for an interview with the head teacher, he was summoned to the head's room. Well, it saves me the trouble of having to wait an hour or two outside, he thought. So Albert's mathematics teacher expresses his displeasure, his unhappiness about Albert leaving the school, but again he knew that Albert was wasting his time there. To this, Albert instantly corrected the teacher, Mr. Cooch, by saying that Mr. Cooch's class, that is the mathematics class, was the only class where he was not wasting his time, and the only class in which he was interested in. So Albert did not tell him anything about leaving, but Mr. Cooch could identify it identify it long before that Albert would leave the school. And of course, because he was getting that referral reference letter written by Mr. Cooch, so he could just make out that Albert was leaving the school. Now, to Albert's surprise, he was called into the headmaster's room although he was not aware of the reason, and he was himself going to make an appointment with him, but he was happy still he was happy that he was saving a bit of time of waiting for an hour or two to meet him. So he was himself called by the headmaster. Next, let us read. He hardly bothered to wonder why he had been sent for, but vaguely supposed he was to be punished again for bad work and laziness. Well, he had finished with punishments. So Albert did not put much thought into why he was being called into the office by the headmaster, but somehow it was very usual for him to go to the headmaster because he used to be punished for his laziness and for the quality of work that he did. But again, he was here sure that he must have been called for his poor performance and lack of interest in his subjects. But finally, he says, well, he had finished with punishment. But now he was done with all of it, all the punishments that he used to get because he was finally leaving his school. Let's read further. I'm not going to punish you, the head teacher said, to Albert's surprise. Your work is terrible, and I'm not prepared to have you here any longer, Einstein. I want you to leave the school now. Leave the school now? Repeated Albert, dazed. That is what I said. You mean, said Albert, that I am to be expelled? So, to Einstein's surprise, he was told by the headmaster that he was not going to be punished this time. And then the headmaster expressed that he is done with Albert's laziness and he is no longer, he no longer wishes to have him there at school. And after listening to these words of the headmaster, Albert was in total shock and he reconfirms it from him whether he was being expelled from the school. He says that I am to be expelled. Okay. Further, let us read. You can take it that way if you wish, Einstein. The head teacher was not mincing words. The simplest thing will be for you to go off your own accord, and then the question won't arise. But, said Albert, what crime have I committed? Your presence in the classroom makes it impossible for the teacher to teach and for the other pupil to learn. You refuse to learn. You are in constant rebellion, and no serious work can be done while you are there. Albert felt the medical certificate almost burning a hole in his pocket. I was going to leave anyway, he said. Then we are in agreement at least, Einstein, the head said. So the head of the school was pretty serious and suggested that Einstein should leave the school on his own um, instead of being expelled, because it would be easier for both the parties, both the headmaster, the school, as well as Einstein. Now, Albert still didn't understand what crime he had committed. He was not able to accept this expulsion of his, and the head teacher explained how his presence is creating trouble for teachers to give lessons to other students and how no work can be done when he is around in the class. Now, while standing there, Albert felt that the certificate was burning a hole in his pocket, which means, this is very important, this means that the money he had spent, or the efforts he had spent, especially the efforts that he had spent on extracting that certificate, okay, which again we would say that the expense of that certificate was in terms of taking Uri also for a meal. So those efforts, those the expenditure that he had done, it had all gone waste, as the certificate was useless now because he was himself being expelled from the school. So he says then further that he was anyway being sent away from school, and he was anyway going to leave that school himself. So Albert expresses that he was anyway going to leave, for to which the teacher, the headmaster, replies that at least for the first time they were agreeing on something, that both the parties wanted to leave the school. The headmaster wanted Albert to leave the school, and Albert himself wanted to leave the school. So both the parties were agreeing for the very first time. Let us read further. For a moment Albert was tempted to tell the man what he thought of him and of his school. Then he stopped himself. Without another word, holding his head high, he stalked out. "Shut the door after you," shouted the head. Albert ignored him. Okay, so at this moment, Albert was being driven by his desire to tell the head teacher the truth, and what he thought about him and the school. But somehow he managed to resist. Somehow he managed to, not to share his last views with the headmaster. But then, because he was also, kind of satisfied that he finally got to move out of the school, so he just chose to keep quiet. So he walked straight out of the school while ignoring the head teacher's instructions to close the door. Okay, so he held his head high and he just left the room. Further, he walked straight on out of the school where he had spent 5 miserable years without turning his head to give it a last look. He could not think of anyone he wanted to say goodbye to. Indeed, Yuri was almost the only person in Munich he felt like seeing before he left the town he had come to hate almost as much as the school. Elsa was back in Berlin, and he had no other real friends. "Goodbye and good luck," said Yuri when he left. "You are going to a wonderful country, I think. I hope you will be happier there." So Albert, he did not even look back at the place where he had spent the most terrible years of his life, that was his school. And he also, the narrator over here tells that he had no real friends or close acquaintances whom he wanted to meet for the very last time, or whom he wanted to, bid adieu for the very last time before leaving that place. uh, and there was only one person, that was Yuri, before leaving. Einstein, who wished to meet only Yuri. Yuri was the only person whom he wanted to meet before leaving the place. And Yuri also, he says that Yuri also wished him that he would live happily in this another country, and that was a very beautiful country, as said by Yuri. So he wishes him good luck. And Elsa, it is told about her that Elsa was also back in Berlin with her family. Thus, there was no one else he could say goodbye to except Yuri. So, at last, it's told, goodbye and good luck. These are the words said by Yuri when he left. And you are going to a wonderful country. I hope you'll be happier there. Still, Yuri, when he's bidding bye to his only friend Albert, he just gave him the best wishes. He just hoped that Albert would lead a very happy, much happier life than he was leading here at his school, the current place where he was living in. Okay, this is it about the chapter. We would be discussing the question answers of it in the next session, and also your doubts. So, underline the difficult words, keep your doubts for your next session. Thank you, everyone.